Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're putting in hundreds of grueling hours of SAT prep only to hit this brutal, frustrating ceiling on your score, well, you definitely aren't alone. Today, we're diving straight into the core mechanics behind FalitMastery to deconstruct exactly why that plateau happens. More importantly, we're going to build the blueprint for true mastery. We're taking an unfiltered, totally objective look at what it actually takes to conquer this exam once and for all.
So let's start with a little reality check. Think about your current study habits for a second. Are you memorizing the test or are you actually mastering the skill? Because that right there is the fundamental divide in test prep. The source material points out that most students are, totally by accident, just memorizing a finite set of answers. You know the drill. You see a problem, you figure out the neat little trick for that specific problem, and you move on. But what happens when the SAT throws the exact same concept at you, just wrapped up in a totally unfamiliar scenario? Well, if you've only memorized the surface pattern, you're going to freeze.
It's a night and day difference between the standard market approach and actual capability building. Typical platforms out there, they test just a tiny slice of the SAT. They run on finite question banks. So when you take their practice exams over and over, your score might go up simply because, well, you're starting to recognize the questions. That creates some wildly inflated scores. FalitMastery is built on a totally different architectural framework. It systematically covers every single skill. It uses unlimited generation so you literally never see the exact same item twice, and it demands proof of real mastery.
And that inflated score, that brings us to a really dangerous trap, the illusion of readiness. The documentation strongly warns against this false signal. When you're using generic AI tools or standard test banks, sure, your practice score goes up. But here's the catch. It's measuring your memory of the test, not your actual command of the underlying math or reading skill. So a student feels ready, walks into the real exam, and just completely hits a wall. Why? Because they've been recognizing answers instead of actually learning how to solve them.
So how do we fix this? The only way to eliminate those dangerous blind spots is by mapping the entire battlefield. You see, the SAT isn't some mysterious, infinite universe of questions. It's actually a finite, fully mapped set of skills. And FalitMastery's very first step is comprehensively mapping every single one of those required skills. The practice and the exams span the whole skill set, not just some random slice, which exposes your real weaknesses right across the board.
Now, to cover a battlefield that large, you need some serious firepower. 60,000. That is the massive, highly curated library of hand-verified questions that FalitMastery relies on, and that's before any AI generation even kicks in. These are meticulously spread out across 4 separate, purpose-built sets for every single map skill. Just to put that massive scale into perspective for you, this curated baseline alone is vastly larger than the entire question banks of most major competitors. It's absolutely huge.
But here's the thing, a static bank, no matter how gigantic it is, eventually runs dry, right? That's exactly where unlimited, true adaptive generation is layered right on top of that curated library. Because every skill is mapped and paired with highly accurate, hallucination-resistant AI, the engine just endlessly generates fresh, cognitively different questions. You literally never run out of practice. And crucially, you never just repeat a failed item simply because the bank is empty. Your training is completely boundless.
Okay, this is where things get truly fascinating. Inside this system, every single question is actually a dynamic microcourse. It's not just a quick assessment to figure out what you don't know. It's a deep subject matter algorithm where every item is built on the real structure of the skill. It doesn't just hand you an answer key and say good luck. It explicitly teaches and trains the underlying capability. So every single question is actively moving you toward mastery.
Let's break down exactly what that microcourse actually looks like. First up, it teaches the concept from the ground up. It gives you the concept label and the governing principle, but it goes way, way deeper than that rote memorization we've all suffered through in high school. It gives you visual intuition. It shows you 3 different representations of the core idea and even throws in an analogy or a real-world hook. This makes sure you fundamentally understand why the math or logic works, not just that it works. But as we know, just understanding a concept isn't enough on test day. You need flawless execution. So it immediately layers on the strategy, basically acting like an expert private tutor sitting right next to you. It gives you a decision heuristic, telling you exactly what to look for first. It walks you through a 5-step strategy with built-in self-checks. And honestly, my favorite feature, it tells you exactly when not to use a specific strategy. It trains you to spot those sneaky traps where a tempting shortcut is actually going to backfire.
Armed with this highly structured teaching engine, the system's adaptive nature goes straight on the offensive. It actively hunts down your true weaknesses. Look, every competitor out there claims to help you practice, but the source notes reveal how FalitMastery systematically targets the exact places where your capability gap is the widest. It builds your exams live, using your real-time data, constantly pushing you into the precise territory of what you don't know. It's relentless. And when you inevitably get a question wrong during this hunt, which will happen, something brilliant kicks in. It doesn't just slap a big red X on your screen and move on. It diagnoses the exact broken thought. The system analyzes your specific wrong answer, figures out the precise misconception that led you down that path, names the trap you fell into, and then repairs that exact broken step. It is speaking directly to the unique mistake you made, not just giving you some generic topic review. This perfectly illustrates the platform's closed-loop weakness removal. It goes like this. The moment you fail a question, the upgrade skill feature kicks in to immediately reteach the concept and strategy. Then the True Mastery engine retests you, but with a totally new cognitive variant. That means it's a completely different question shape that tests the exact same underlying skill. You either prove a genuine transfer of knowledge, or that loop just keeps continuing until the weakness is completely eradicated.
This relentless loop brings us to the ultimate standard of readiness. Most of the test prep market just gives you some arbitrary number to make you feel good, or simply counts how many questions you got right. But the source documentation completely redefines this by introducing the 9-dimension standard. This framework proves that your readiness is earned, not imagined. Honestly, it's a fundamental paradigm shift in what mastery actually means.
Just look at the sheer rigor of these 9 dimensions. Getting the question right, that is literally only step 1. Can you identify the skill? Can you apply the lowest risk strategy and do it fast enough? Can you maintain focus when you're totally exhausted at the end of a session or recover quickly after a sudden slip? A single SMART score from a competitor means absolutely nothing if you're highly accurate but constantly fail on speed, or if you keep falling for trap answers. You haven't truly mastered a skill until all 9 of these dimensions are cleared.
Let's zoom in on just one of these to show you how deep this rabbit hole really goes. Retention. Real mastery means accounting for the natural decay of human memory. If you learn a complex concept on Monday, the system is going to hit you with an unseen, entirely new variant of that question maybe 5 days later. If your memory has faded and you get it wrong, boom, that skill drops completely out of your mastered list. You have to continually prove you own that skill over time.
And to measure all of this, the engine is constantly pulling levers in the background. Every single parameter auto-adjusts to your performance. It seamlessly modifies the difficulty, it shifts the question archetype, and it targets specific dimensions. If you clear the accuracy threshold, it instantly raises the bar to test your speed. Clear that? It engineers a tricky distractor trap just for you. It relentlessly pushes past your threshold until your skills are truly undeniable. A top score isn't magic, it's the visible outcome of real mastery. Build the skill, and hard questions start to feel easy. Consistency plus completion equals mastery. So the final question isn't just about how you prep for a test, but how you build true capability. Are you going to keep relying on the illusion of readiness? Or are you ready to systematically map your skills, repair every single broken thought, and make a perfect score the inevitable result of your mastery? The choice is yours.